Hey guys, so this is part 2 of revisiting Teen Wolf season 3, but part B this time. In this video, I essentially give my thoughts on this half of the season, and I'm assuming everyone who watches this video has already seen part 1 and has watched Teen Wolf in its entirety. I hope y'all enjoy, like, share, and subscribe, and let's get into the video. The second half of season 3 shifted the tone of the season, and the 13th episode wasted no time conveying that with the opening scene of Styles having a nightmare. I love how we are actively seeing the effects of what they did and how it is affecting them. Scott is struggling with being an alpha. He's scared that if he turns, he'll lose control and become a monster. Styles is having a psychological battle within the Kitsune, and Allison is being haunted by her dead aunt Kate. They are all hallucinating frequently, and some of those hallucinations are leaning into horror, which I really like. The Isaac and Allison thing is not needed, especially when it doesn't go anywhere. I think the writers didn't have anything for them to do, so they shoved them into a relationship, in quotations, to create the illusion that they're doing something with them. They could have used the time spent on him and Allison to actually allow him to get over his trauma, but no. And remember, in part 1 when I said that Isaac is no longer suffering from trauma, yeah, he's not, which wouldn't be a bad thing if it wasn't for the fact that it just disappeared. He did not get over it or had it resolved, it's just gone now. I love how they introduced Kira and everyone's reaction to her. I think kitsunes are one of the most interesting creatures on the show, and I love how the writers actually used her and her mother and the Nogitsune to dive into their lore. I wish other creatures had gotten that treatment. So there's essentially 2 plot lines for this half of the season. Scott and friends are investigating a car crash that took place on the night of a full moon 8 years ago, and they're also trying to close the door in their minds and stop the Nogitsune. Lydia is useful to some extent, but the rate at which she is developing as a banshee is very slow. They keep spoon feeding us little info on what she can do, and it's kind of frustrating a little bit. Just a little, just a little, just a teeny little, just a little. Allison utilizing her knowledge on supernaturals to help Scott and Styles with Malia makes me upset because this is what they should have done earlier on. Since Allison is a hunter, she would have had knowledge on the supernatural, so they could have used her to clue us in on a lot of things. I like the Malia storyline, and I like that she's how we are introduced to were coyotes, but it's a shame that we don't get more until like season 4 and 5. And while I do like Malia, I think she's very one note, especially in later seasons. She stays the same person since season 3, and I don't really mind her in this season since this is where we are introduced to her, but damn, like, it sucks that she doesn't progress as a character. I'm not gonna lie, I like Brayden. I think she's a very fun kind of character for the little bit of screen time that she got, but I don't like how they killed her off and then they brought her back somehow, and then she's now working for Deucalion, like, and we get no further explanation, so I'm like, okay. I like the introduction of the Calaveras. They come off way more threatening than the Argents, which makes me wish we got more werewolves versus werewolf hunters in the show. But don't get me wrong, I do love the non-hunter antagonists, but I think that it would be so interesting watching how much tension would be flowing through the town as werewolves and werewolf hunters tiptoe around each other trying to not involve the humans in their beef. And yes, I am aware that in season 4 we get hunters, but those aren't the hunters that I want. They're just doing it for money. I want hunters that are hunting for the protection of humanity, and I would love to see 2 hunter families butting heads because they have different ways of solving a situation. William Barrow is a very unsettling character. The actor really does a good job making you feel wary and creeped out by him. Through him, we get to see a little of what the Nogitsune is capable of, which is the Nogitsune using a fly to mind control him. And then he kidnaps Kira, and that's where we discovered that Kira is a Kitsune. I like that we're getting a continuation of Ethan and Aiden's storyline. Them trying to get into Scott's pack makes sense because they're now Omegas and lone wolves don't survive on their own. but I would love if we got to see that more instead of being told that it happens. The Cataveras had Derek's mom's claws, so that's what him and Peter were looking for when they got captured by them. Derek wants to use her claws so that he can ask her something, and I don't know how that works. We're not really given much of an explanation other than it is some sort of ritual. Peter wanting to keep Talia's claws is so weird. And I don't think Peter is aware of how untrustworthy he is. Like, if it was someone else, of course you can keep the claws of your dead sister. Yeah. But you? No. Mm-mm. Scott having dinner with Kira and her parents is such a good scene. It shows us the parents' personalities. I don't know if you know about the golden retriever and black cat dynamic. That's what I get from the parents. The father is a golden retriever and the mother is a black cat. Kira teaching Scott how to use chopsticks is such a cute seed, man. Being a banshee has to be one of the most frustrating creatures to ever be. Like, there isn't a switch you can flip to turn it off. You're constantly hearing things no one else can hear, and you normally have feelings about particular things that you can't even explain. What's worse is that Lydia has no one to teach her. It would be so nice if Deaton, the mysterious know-it-all, could know something about banshees and help, but he's once again loosely involved in the story, leaving Lydia feeling unhelpful and down in the dumps. And honestly, I'm not sure if I could declare myself sane if I was a banshee, because it's not like there's undeniable proof that I am one, outside of the screaming. For example, often when Lydia is hearing things, it's normally accompanied by a feeling. These two things don't point you in a specific direction. But I do like how Styles was able to use his brain and her powers to point them in a specific direction, which puts them on Barrow's trail. The series was building up to Styles becoming a detective, and it is sad that we never got a spin-off with him being a detective investigating supernatural murders. Styles deduced that because the werewolves couldn't track Barrow by scent, then he must have been somewhere where his scent would have been hidden, which is the chemistry closet. And upon investigating, they found that the chemistry closet's door, which is supposed to be closed, is open, and blood is on the floor. And upon going into the classroom, they find a coded message on the blackboard, when translated means Kira. Like, you need knowledge, like a vast amount of knowledge for you to be useful as a banshee. Like, your powers like literally just point you into a dead end unless you know stuff. By the way, I'm referring to the psychic side of being a banshee, not the death side. That is automatic. And they take far too long to actually do something with Lydia being a banshee. We found out she's a banshee in season 3, and it's all the way in season 5 where we learn more and get to see Lydia embody being a banshee. The twins changing their approach to join Scott's pack wasn't something I expected, but I welcome it. Scott never cared about power, so trying to appeal to him that way makes no sense. Protecting people, yes, that's the way to go. The writers treat Derek a lot better than most characters. He has the most backstory, the most depth, the most growth, and is far more interesting than the actual main character. Teen Wolf loves their party sequences. In every season, there's at least one party sequence, but I think this one is my favorite. I low-key like the glow-in-the-dark theme. One of the things that make the Oni terrifying is the fact that they don't talk. They just lurk and stare, then just attack. When Ethan went to get more ice and the bulb kept flashing on and off, and the Oni are suddenly appearing and disappearing, it's just so creepy and eerie. Seeing Kira's aura again reminds me of Hikari's aura that she somehow gave to Scott, and I'm honestly wondering if it's the same thing. I find it funny how we never even knew what kind of kitsune Hikari is. I mean, she is the third kitsune in the entire franchise, and we know nothing about her, and nothing new about kitsune. The movie made it seem as though she's supposed to be the same as Kira, which is a thunder kitsune. Man, the movie robbed us of so much. It's not even funny. Lydia seeing the Oni in the midst of the party, but it looked like they couldn't fully manifest because of the light, was very eerie and creepy, I'm not gonna lie. Then she went on the balcony where they were able to ambush her, and when she tried to scream, the Oni literally stopped it with his hand. That was so cool. And I love the fights between the werewolves and the Oni. I mean, the Oni are just built different. And I especially like when Isaac walks up to one of them with his claws out ready to fight, and the Oni just pulled out the katana out of his chest. That was, man, top 10, top 5 moments. In my Teen Wolf movie review, I said that the Nagitsune was watered down, and rewatching season 3 just hammers that in. Imagine your son showing signs of the same illness that got your wife killed. But hold on, he doesn't really have it though. Imagine sending the Oni all over town to kill people. Imagine you being impaled by a sword and your best friend is twisting it and looking you dead in the eyes. And that's just a few things the Nagitsune did. I wish we got more episodes like Silverfinger. We get to see Chris, Allison, and Isaac sort of infiltrate Silverfinger's hideout to get more information on the Oni. Stuff like this should have been littered throughout Teen Wolf. I'm not a big fan of how the Argents barely function as hunters after season 2. I like that in season 3 they decided to change the way they do things, but it pisses me off that nothing comes of it. Allison dies and Chris takes an even further step back from the main cast. If it were up to me, I'd alter his storyline in season 4 by using Allison's death to motivate him to get back into hunting. I said it before, Chris is at his best when he's an active hunter. I wouldn't even begin season 4 with Scott and friends. I would begin it with Chris somewhere else hunting down werewolves or other kinds of creatures who are choosing to harm people. He would get his own storyline separate from the main cast until he gets word that the hunters are going to Beacon Hills because of some kind of hit list, and he starts hunting down the people trying to kill Scott and friends, then eventually reunites with them. I couldn't care less for the drama between Scott and his dad, mostly because the show never really acted like it gave a crap. This man does not come up in any conversation, there is no pictures of him, he does not get mentioned, and we don't see him until the first half of season 3 when we're smack in the middle of Scott leaving to join the Alpha Pack, Cora dying, and Jennifer holding Melissa and the sheriff captive to then sacrifice them. That was not the right time to introduce this man. You could have chosen any other time. Why choose when we're smack dab in the middle of this kind of stuff? Man, do better. You should have done better. Come on, guys. I will never understand why the writers chose to write Scott this way. The Oni are looking for a dark spirit. There's a new girl in town who is a supernatural creature you are unfamiliar with. She believes it may be her, and I can see why, but he does not think that it's her because, quote, I've seen the bad guys before, and you're not one of them. Scott, come to the front, please. Excuse me? Matt was literally a normal-looking teenager who turned out to be a homicidal, obsessive weirdo. Peter was a catatonic, burnt victim. Even though he was acting, he is still a psychotic werewolf murderer. Jennifer was a lovely, innocent teacher who was also a homicidal dark druid. The first time you met Deucalion, you thought he was a normal blind man. At some point, Scott, I think you should have at least become suspicious of new people. And what do all these people have in common? They all looked like normal people before it was revealed that they weren't. Because of this mindset that he does not develop from, Theo is able to break his pack apart, drive a wedge between him and Scott, and almost kill him. Styles doubting new people is on point for his character because of the past experiences. The same should be for Scott, but it isn't, which is so frustrating. Anyway, I really love the horror aspect of the season. A part of me wished Teen Wolf kept this tone consistently throughout the season and the entire series. I love how the Nagitsune can't completely take over your body, it has to wear you down mentally. So Styles is often put in situations that are meant to convince him that he's losing his mind. The episode where Styles goes missing is one of my favorite episodes. It is so thrilling. This part of the season, Dylan gives his most memorable performances. The complete switch up in his character was crazy, and this was a complete shock when I watched it for the first time. Bro had me completely dialed in. I love how they handled the Nagitsune. They kept him toned down to fit the small town setting. We went from werewolves to a Japanese deity in the same season, and it doesn't feel out of place, it doesn't feel like too much, it just fits perfectly. And the way he was defeated was just the icing on the cake. Instead of finding a random weapon that can kill him, the Nagitsune could only be contained. And they were able to with a jar that was made from the nematon, which is a supernatural tree, so it can contain a powerful object or a powerful spirit or whatever. If we're being honest here, the only reason why the Nagitsune lost was because he underestimated his enemies and was caught completely off guard. Allison is becoming so loosely involved in the story, it's frustrating. 2 episodes back to back, she's barely on screen and barely doing anything, just like Deaton. Morel is back and she's killing it as always. The actress Bianca Lawson is good in every single role I've seen her in, and she's always in some supernatural teen drama. My favorite character that she played was, I think her name was Kendra from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Top tier. I like that the Kitsune has physical tails, but it would be so cool if the Fox Aura had the tails. And I would love to see Noshiko in her prime. I love the flashback episode, one of my favorites, and I kinda find it funny how they had Arden Cho, who plays Kira, play the younger version of her mom, and Crystal, that plays Allison, plays Allison's ancestor as well. These are just a couple things I need to get off my chest. Once again, Peter stays almost completely out of the conflict. There are too many slow-mo shots. It looked cool at the start, but it's in almost every single episode and it gets old real quick. In episode 22, when Scott and Lydia went into Stas' head, I want to know how does that work. Peter was able to see Isaac's memories by injecting his claws into the back of his neck, and his sister was able to take his memories by doing the same thing. So I want to know how Scott can go into someone's head by doing the same thing. There's nothing new added. He didn't do anything different, but he's able to go into Stas' head by just injecting his claws into the back of his neck. There is a whole storyline with Sheriff Stilinski being impeached because of his lack of success in closing cases. And while I do like that he got something to do separately from the main cast, it got resolved too quickly. And I don't even like the way it was resolved. Scott's dad says something to his higher ups and they decided not to take the sheriff's job away, and we don't even know what he said. Also, this storyline has no impact on Stilinski or the story, so essentially, it was a waste of time. As much as I like Meredith, to me she functions more as a plot device rather than a character. Allison's death pisses me off because she was like half remembered in this season, and she really didn't do much. So when she died, I thought that, okay, it's probably because they didn't know what to do with the character post season 2. In fact, they didn't know what to do with the Argents post season 2. One of the things I don't really like about this season is that characters who aren't included in the main plot aren't given other stuff to do, they're just not in the episode. But this part of the season is better than the other. I loved all the fight scenes. The Oni and the Nagitsune are top tier supernatural creatures. Dylan O'Brien outshined everyone. He demonstrated how good of an actor he is and made the Nagitsune one of the most memorable villains of the season. I don't think Styles should have remained the same character after this season. He did some terrible things due to the Nagitsune and it should have bothered him, like seeking therapy bothered him. Don't you think Styles would have been tired of being so defenseless? The Nagitsune almost took everything from him and he could not do anything about it. I'm not saying that he should have been turned into a werewolf, but this should have been a character arc at least. It upsets me that the whole open door in your mind thing was dropped as soon as he was introduced. Apparently, everyone apart from Styles is fine. Scott got over being afraid to become an alpha, and Allison just stopped hallucinating her dead aunt. I saw theories about this One of which is that Allison and Scott were able to close the doors in their minds because of focusing on their emotional connections with their anchors. And to that I say, at this point, let's just go with that explanation, because I'm not going to dive into the whole... No, I'm not doing that. And with that being said, we've reached the end of revisiting Teen Wolf Season 3 Part B. I hope y'all enjoyed. If y'all want to see me revisit other Teen Wolf seasons, just let me know, because that will be dope. Anyway, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all in the next video.